Welcome to Familypreneur, the podcast for busy parents building profitable businesses. If we haven't met yet, I'm Meg Brunson, and we are about to simplify business and marketing strategies because balance was never about spending equal time between your business and your family. Nope, you want to spend previously unimagined amounts of time making memories with your kids. And the only way that's going to happen is if we get your marketing under control. I want to take a minute to acknowledge that Black Lives Matter, that love is love, and that inclusivity is essential for success. So I welcome all colors, genders, and cultures to join us for today's episode. Since he was 10 years old, Dhruv has had a passion for serving his community. 2 years ago, Dhruv started volunteering at a local military hospital, working with people suffering from dementia. Since then, helping the elderly population has been his purpose in life. In March of last year, when COVID-19 was declared a pandemic, Dhruv noticed that his elderly grandparents and neighbors were scared to get out of the house, to get their medications, to get groceries, and he thought that if his family and neighbors were afraid, there were likely others, especially those who didn't have family close by to help, that were feeling the same thing. That is when Dhruv's teen volunteer group called Teens Helping Seniors was born. And today I'm so excited to have Dhruv with us so we can talk a little bit more about that whole process, that organization, and how kids can get involved in entrepreneurship. Dhruv, thank you so much for being here today.
Yeah, thank you so much for inviting me. It's great to be here. You know, when I heard about a space that's looking at entrepreneurship, but specifically entrepreneurship in connection with families, I knew that I had to get involved. So again, thank you so much for inviting me.
Well, we're happy to have you here. I'd love to know, are your parents entrepreneurial at all? Like, did they give you this bug genetically?
That's a difficult question. My mom is a doctor by profession. And my dad has worked in the government, and right now he's trying to get he started a few small businesses, and he's trying to get those off the ground. But I'd say even for me, you know, I wasn't born with an entrepreneurial spirit, right? I barely knew what entrepreneurship was truly in middle school, and it wasn't so much that, you know, one day the switch kind of turned on that said, "Hey, I'm gonna go be an entrepreneur." It was more of a gradual thing for me, right? I got involved with organizations in the beginning as a sort of follower, right? Content to be a member of the pack. But eventually, you know, I started moving up, I started accepting leadership, and then I kind of came into my entrepreneurial spirit, which I think is the more common story for a lot of people.
Yeah. And so what was the first time that you remember, like what was that first entrepreneurial venture that you remember jumping into?
Right. So I volunteer with a local military hospital, as you were saying. And so I volunteered during the summers. And one summer, I think it was the summer of 2018, if I'm remembering correctly, I was talking to one of the friends that I'd made during the program, during the last few days of the program. It's a program with the Red Cross to help the elderly veterans in the hospital. And she said that she was going to start her own, she had started her own nonprofit called Arts and STEM for Hearts, based on her own experiences working in the hospital and working with the people who need, you know, services the most. And she said, "Hey, do you want to come on board as a leadership position? I know you, I know the work that you're doing in the hospital, and I would love to have you as a member of my team." And that was the first time for me because I'd never been involved with leadership in volunteer organizations up to that point. And so I was really apprehensive at first, to tell you the truth, because I was kind of scared of the responsibilities. I was unsure of where it was going to go. And at the same time, it was a relatively new nonprofit, so we barely knew what we were getting into. But, you know, luckily, thanks to her guidance, her perseverance, and the help I was able to give her, you know, we've really taken this nonprofit off the ground and grown Arts and STEM for Hearts to even an international scale. And so that was really my first experience. I joined as a brand ambassador. I am now the chief technology officer of that organization.
Awesome. Well, that's some great, you know, vertical mobility there. So is volunteering, working with nonprofits and volunteering, is that a good way, would you think, to get involved, like to get your kids from a parent perspective, to get your kids involved in business and start thinking entrepreneurially?
Yeah, well, I can't speak too much to this, but I think in my humble opinion that, starting from the point of view of a nonprofit, starting from the point of altruism is really the best mindset to have in business, right? So business is all about that profit, right? And when you get involved with a nonprofit, when you get involved with volunteer work, especially at an early age, it kind of teaches you that the world is not all about profit. And there are vocations, and there are especially interests that don't revolve around making a profit. And the beauty of those is that it allows you to focus on other things like developing empathy, developing interpersonal relations, developing altruism, and all these things can be developed from a business standpoint. But I find that the easiest way to do that, especially with young people, is through volunteerism. And that's especially volunteerism that happens on a local scale, helping out their community, helping out their loved ones. And even the smallest gestures, can really make a difference. So I think getting involved in volunteering will really help your child have an outlook on business and on entrepreneurship that is focused around helping people, that is focused around empathy. And I think that's what we need right now in today's society, more entrepreneurs like that.
Oh my gosh, I feel like that is gold. That is everything. And you started by saying you can speak to that. Okay. From now on,
Hmm.
you can speak to that because that was just brilliant. I feel like that was an amazing answer. And I think it's not just for kids. Like we are talking about kids here. Um, for many people watching this, you are a kid. Um, but this is a lesson for adults too. I'm a big proponent of valuing people over profits, right? And that's what you're talking about is, we're here to serve, and through service is how we profit and we make money. It's not just about making money, it's really about providing that service.
Hmm.
Service, not sales. Or, provide the service and sales will come. But man, you said it. And I just feel like you need a moment. You dropped the mic. That was incredible. So thank you for that. now I,
Yeah, thank you. I mean, yeah, going off what you said, it definitely doesn't have to be something just for kids. I mean, volunteering is best when you do it with people that you love and people that you enjoy being with. It's truly the more the merrier. And so family volunteering has been on the rise, especially recently. You can volunteer with your children at a lot of different opportunities. And in that case, there really isn't an age barrier, right? Because it's really just hands-on work. And the more you put into it, the more good that will come out of it. And that's kind of the beauty of volunteering. It's blind to all those barriers that normally permeate society. And so I think that's why it's great to get involved in family volunteering.
yes. And since getting into volunteering, you've specifically found this passion for helping the older generations and bridging the generational gap. Can you share a little bit about the benefits of that, of
Hmm.
teens and young people helping the elderly population?
Right. So the reason that I really got involved in this was, as you said, because of my own grandparents, right? It really started from there. And it kind of shocked me, especially during the pandemic, that there was this sort of disconnect between the elderly and the youth. And so when I initially started an organization to help the elderly during the pandemic, I was like, there's no way this is going to take off, frankly, because I had read stories in the media that said, teens don't care about the pandemic. Teens are going to the beach because they're ignoring stay at home, they're licking groceries and other atrocities. And so I had this kind of mindset, that maybe the generations weren't willing to work together. And I'm happy to say I was totally wrong. That is the exception, definitely not the rule. And we've had hundreds of teens from all over the country reach out and say, "Hey, I don't know you personally. I heard about you on the news, but this is a need I see in my community. This is a need I see within my community's elderly population, and I want to help out." And the fact that they're willing to take that initiative from all over the country and even in Canada means that, there's still hope in terms of crossing this generational barrier. And I think that's been fueled by the pandemic. The pandemic has really been able to bring us together in ways that maybe we would have never done initially. And so now what we have is that I've seen my volunteers forge intimate connections with the seniors that they deliver to, that they work with. And in that way, they find that they have more in common. But the big step is just really getting that first contact, right? Because once you get that first contact and they start to realize, that maybe age isn't a barrier, that maybe we all have something in common, maybe we can all have fun together. And so once you get that first contact, it really just goes uphill from there, and it's a beautiful process to watch unfold. But that's what I've been trying to do in terms of bridging that generational gap.
So if there is a parent or a child listening and they're interested in doing something like this, do you have a program where they reach out to you and they can like bring a chapter to their community?
Yep. So the organization that me and my friends started called Teens Helping Seniors that I was just talking about, you can find it at teenshelpingseniors.org or on various social media under Teens Helping Seniors, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, etc. Or you can email us at teenshelpingseniors@gmail.com. And if you reach out to us and say, hey, my area doesn't have a chapter of Teens Helping Seniors and I would love to get started, we will provide you with all the materials and all the advice that you need to get started in your area, including weekly check-ins so that, you can update us on your progress and we can help you with that. And we'll really help you foster your ability as a chapter so that you can help your community.
So you'll help with everything from like how do you find the first senior to help in growing your network and things like that.
Yep. Outreach is a really big part of not just even our organization, but a part of all volunteering, especially during the pandemic. And so, thankfully, now Teens Helping Seniors does have a lot of outreach and some coverage, but especially when we were starting out, it was a more difficult problem because any small business or any small nonprofit knows that getting your word out there is the hardest part. It's the hardest first step.
I gotta just address the cat butt in the room. You are amazing. You have delivered that amazingly. Okay. Anyhow, I feel like that you are a very skilled young man. That cat didn't even derail your answer. Gold.
I've had a lot of experience with my cat sitting on my computer. So.
That is awesome. No, that is great. I love the level of support that you provide. I would love to know, what is your vision? Like, do you have a 5-year goal or a 10-year goal for this? Or what do you see for the future with this nonprofit?
So Teens Helping Seniors really did start out as Teens Helping Seniors, but we started to realize that, there's so much more than that. There's so much more than just Teens Helping Seniors. And it's expanded now to, teens helping veterans, teens helping people with dementia or Alzheimer's, teens helping, wherever they can help. And that's kind of the message now. And eventually it won't even be teens. It'll just be, people helping other people. And that's kind of the goal. And so we're really trying to, diversify. And what we mean by diversify is really get involved with the nonprofit space, because there's no reason why Teens Helping Seniors should exist as a standalone organization. There's no reason why any volunteering should be standalone when there's so many other, nonprofits working so hard to reach a different group that we could help out, whether with our volunteer work, or with using our coverage to spread messages, positive messages, etc. And so we really want to get involved with as many opportunities as possible. And that way, at the same time, our teens can also have a great variety of opportunities to volunteer. And so, for example, we got involved with a veterans organization called Serving Together. And so we've been delivering free produce boxes to veterans in the DC, Maryland, Virginia, DMV area. And so that's happening on a weekly or bi-weekly basis. And then we've also, delivered Halloween goods, Christmas goods, festivities to our seniors so that, even if they can't go out and enjoy with their family as they normally would, they can still have a little, ray of hope during their holidays, especially. And so that's what we're trying to do. We're really trying to make Teens Helping Seniors more multifaceted. And even after the pandemic, we want to continue to foster this intergenerational bridge as much as we can.
I mean, it sounds like a big mission, like a big movement, to just get people helping people, and how that's going to help us all. Like a rising tide lifts all ships. It's that concept.
It really is a movement. And specifically for, narrowing in on, teen volunteerism. And that's where we've seen, I think, the biggest movement during the pandemic, because, teen involvement in volunteerism compared before the pandemic versus where it is now, it's a lot better, because I think the pandemic has made a lot of our youth realize that, volunteering is more needed now than ever. And, they can actually see, the fruits of their volunteering in terms of who they're helping out in the community. And so we've really seen that movement. It's continuing, fortunately. And hopefully, once this crisis is over, it'll continue to grow, because I think that the need will always be there. And the more people we can get involved and the greater their efforts, the more impact we'll have.
Yes. And I think a great way, we mentioned family volunteer opportunities, and I think that's a great way to instill that value on younger kids so that when they get to be a teenager, they already are in that mindset of wanting to give back and wanting to pay it forward and wanting to help other people.
Yeah. I think that's particularly important, because for me, it was daunting to get into volunteering when I was younger, when I was in middle school, because I hadn't really had many experiences with volunteering in elementary school and at a very young age. So I wasn't sure what it was. I wasn't sure what it constituted, and I was really apprehensive. And so I think that if you get your kids involved as early as possible, then they'll have an idea that maybe volunteering isn't as scary as it might seem, right? It doesn't have to be a chore. It doesn't have to be strenuous, right? It can be something that you enjoy. It can be something that you do for fun. And I think once you get them to that point where they're willing to do this for their own sake rather than for anyone else's sake, then I think that, you've instilled in them a sense of altruism and empathy that's going to help them for the rest of their life.
So in addition to finding other teens who want to start chapters and participate in their communities, what are other ways that people that are our listeners can help you and help your organization?
Right. So there are a lot of small ways that you can go out of your way to not only help our organization, but in a larger sense, help the movement of teen volunteerism. And so certainly Teens Helping Seniors is not the only youth organization. There are a lot of local and national level youth organizations that are operating during the pandemic. And so you should really volunteer to cater to your interests. So, for example, if your interest is in agriculture, then maybe you can join some sort of volunteering organization that's related to that. Or if you're interested in civics, you can join something related to that, etc. And so you should really find volunteering that caters to your interests, so that you have fun while doing it. It doesn't seem like work for you. And then no matter what organization you're involved with, whether you choose to involve with Teens Helping Seniors or any other organization, just realize, the effect of what you're doing, realize that you're making an impact in the world. And at the same time, try to gain as many skills and as many experiences and meet as many new people as possible, because that's really what you're going to get out of the experience.
And it reminds me a lot of some of the lessons we talk about when it comes to business, right? You don't have to do all the things. So I like that you recommend find the one thing that you're interested in and volunteer for that one thing. There's so many people in the world that if everybody volunteered for one thing that they're interested in, everything would get covered. So you don't have to feel guilty that you're not helping the poor puppies at the animal shelter. Instead, you chose to help seniors or vice versa, because it'll all get done if everybody does their part.
Yeah, and that really comes to the next step, which is once you've decided on what you want to volunteer, it's about spreading the word, and it's about convincing other people to do the same and to get involved. And that's really the next step of where we want to take the volunteering movement, right? We just want to get more and more people involved. And it's really been like a ripple effect, right? And I've seen this even within Teens Helping Seniors. So we go deliver to one person in an elderly community, and then the next week we have dozens of requests from there, because simply through word of mouth, people talk about it and say, hey, this service is happening and I think you could benefit from it. And so in the same way, if we can just spread volunteering through social media, through word of mouth, and it should be, not just spreading, blasting messages to everyone, but if you share your own personal experiences with volunteering, it's 100 times more impactful, and it'll be 100 times better in terms of making an influence.
Yes. Well, man, I think this was amazing. I just want to thank you so much. I feel like you blew my mind, and I'm sure that my listeners are going to agree. Can you let us know, where can we connect with you? Where can we connect with Teens Helping Seniors? What are all the links and places that we can connect with you and support you?
All the links.
We will.
Okay, I'll start with just me. Yeah, I'll start with just me. So you can find my personal email at Pai, Dhruv B. Pai at gmail.com. And then for Teens Helping Seniors, we have teenshelpingseniors.org, and then teenshelpingseniors at gmail.com. For the other organization, Arts and STEM for Hearts, it's artsandstemforhearts.org. And then finally, I'm actually starting up a new nonprofit, and the goal of this nonprofit is to sort of merge STEM, which is my schooling background in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, with volunteerism. And so that's called STEMpathy. And there's no website for that yet, but be on the lookout because it'll be going up soon. And I would love for anyone to get involved.
Well, now you're going to tell me a little bit more about STEMpathy. You waited until the end to drop this goal. Tell me what that is going to be about.
Yeah, so I've really, so a lot of my schooling experience has been with, STEM, and that's been my background, especially, my parents are both STEM professionals, and I was kind of raised with a sense of STEM, kind of, in terms of that spirit of research, that spirit of curiosity. But at the same time, as I grew up and I started to look into research and science, a simple Google Scholar search, and you'll see that there are so many different academic, research articles that are being published every day, but how many of those are actually going to make an impact? How many of those are actually going to help someone, and how many of those are going to touch a life? And so at some point there became this sort of disconnect between what we're researching in our ivory tower of science and knowledge with what's actually going on, and how we can help people. And so the goal is to sort of bridge that divide. And that might be a little vague, and I haven't really ironed out too much of the specifics, but my goal right now is really to bring those two fields of STEM and empathy together into STEMpathy.
I love that, and I cannot wait to see how that pans out. I can tell that you have a bright future ahead of you, and I'm really excited that I got to meet you at this stage in your career, and I cannot wait to see how it pans out over the coming years. I want to thank you so much again for spending time with us and sharing so much knowledge and information, especially around the importance of volunteering. I think that's a lesson that us as parents, we may need a reminder, that we probably could be doing a little more than we're doing, and getting our kids involved in that process as early as possible too.
Yeah, it was great being here. And once again, I want to urge anyone listening to the show to feel free to contact me if there are any questions or anything you want to say, because I would love to follow up with you.
Thank you so much, Dhruv. That's it for this episode of Familypreneur. You'll find all the links mentioned and the show notes at megbrunson.com/podcast. Until next time, I'll see you over in the Familypreneur community. Bye for now.